Welcome back to the Rudder. It is an awful day today, so it's time for a job. I'm going to be installing this Duetta Mark II water heater. It is a dual water heater, 12 volt and 240 volt. If you follow the channel, you've probably seen that we do like to hang out on the hook at anchor, and Brooke doesn't really like the cold water. So we're upgrading to, I found this one, it's a Duetta Mark II. The big thing is this water heater powers on 240 volt, so you can power it on shore power, but it also works on 12 volt. So we're going to hook it up to the battery. Apparently it takes about 25 amps when it's heating water, which is a little bit, but we've got that big battery, so we should be okay. Let's have a look what's in the box. So one of the things it says here on the box is that both at 240 volt and 12 volt, it can heat from 30 to 70 degrees, which is plenty for our needs. So having a quick look, promotional material with a very nice chap. I'm guessing he's the creator. This is an Australian made product, which is kind of good. I got it at a local provider as well, and it comes with a 12-month warranty. Instruction booklet, pressure relief valve, mounting bolts and things. And I'm guessing these will be the brackets for it to sit on. I have had a quick look before purchasing this. You can install this on a wall or on the floor, and it can be installed vertically as well. All right, here we go. Let's get that out of the way. So it's a reasonably large unit, about the same size as the factory one. So I'm hoping it's just a flip over to install. But if you've seen the factory one, to change the temperature you need to unscrew the front of the one that's in there now. So this one has a digital thermostat, and you can see here, it can tell you if it's heating on 240 volt or heating on 12 volt. So powering, that's the end of it. So you do have a big on-off switch, which I guess is going to be handy, and a digital readout for what's happening, and you can clearly see that's where the cold water's coming in and the hot water's coming out. Wiring for 240 volt will be very simple with a standard plug. Now I've had a read of this already. So these are our high ampage cables. So these are 6mm cables. These I'm going to wire directly back to the battery, and this is wired to your switch, to on-off switch. So you can see the gauge of the cable. They're just normal size cable. So you do need some large gauge cable because it is going to take a fair amount of amperage. And I was looking around for some, quite expensive, and I found these, which are for solar panels. But they're already terminated with Anderson plugs. So I'm going to use these to run back to the battery. The only addition I have to add into them is we need to add a fuse. So I've cut one off, and I'm going to put a 50 amp fuse in here. When you read through this, it says a 50 amp fuse. It also has, depending on how long your cable run is, a very complicated table for what gauge cable you need to run back to the battery. So I almost have everything ready to go. I do have to get to the shop and get a 50 amp fuse and some terminal lugs. So this end's going to be at the battery. I'll somehow wire it through to where the hot water system is. Then I'll put Anderson plugs on this end so they can connect together. That just plugs into the wall in the boat, and this will, I'll get another switch somewhere, and so I can have a rocker switch. Obviously with a unit like this, you don't want it powering on 12 volt all the time. It'll definitely suck your battery dry. I have had a play underneath as well, and I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty certain that these inlets are the same size as the factory one. So fingers crossed it is a switch out and put back in. The next thing I have to work out is how do I get the old water system out without releasing 120 litres of water all through the boat. Little thing I've just been thinking about, so I'm going to go investigate that now. But yeah, so you need to get the old hot water system out. It will be filled with water, so let's go down to the boat and investigate that. Before we do anything else, we have to work out how to get the old system, where is it? There, the big blue thing, how to get that out of the way without getting water all through the boat. So let's go have a look. We'll get a bit of light under here. So here's the old system. So that's the hot water coming out, cold water going in there. So you can see these plugs are the same. So we'll be taking those off, and right at the back, I don't know if you can see, there's the 240 volt plug, so we'll be unplugging that, taking the brackets out, and yeah, so the water cable should just connect up to the new system. Then we'll plug it in, then we've got to work out the run. So first off, going to get rid of this. So we're hoping to go out tomorrow. It'd be lovely to test it tomorrow, but at least I can get it hooked up for 240 volt. Then I can work on the 12 volt side. I'm sure there might be an easier way to do this, but it's happening. So what I've done is I've drained the bigger water tank. It was half full anyway, so that was easy. I've undone the hot water inlet, which is at the top of the old water tank. Now I'm just having to drain out the 10 litres of tank. I thought it would have drained by putting the hot water system on, or the hot water taps, but it didn't. So this is just a slower process of, I'm using this feeder, I don't know if you can even see it, a feeder wire, hot water tube from the cold to the hot, and just using that to slowly drain it out. If you get impatient, I found you can blow on this. The more the water comes out faster. But as yet I haven't had a calamity. No doubt when I video it, it's a good time to have a calamity. Okay, well at the moment calamity is averted. The cushion is a little bit wet, but certainly not that wet. We have the hot water system basically out. So with 240 volt disconnected. I did that first, of course. As I said, I emptied the water tank. I do believe there's still water in here. That's why I've got it pointed up with these two pointed up. But the fresh water input is fine. It's up. So all we've got to do is get this out of here without spilling water all over the place. I don't think there's much water left in it. As I was saying, I undid this pipe here, which is connected to the intake, and then could drain it out in sort of litre increments. And then you could blow on this one if you got impatient and wanted to push it out a bit faster. So the old hot water system's almost out. If you'd like an old hot water system, let me know. As I say, we did have a bit of troubles with it. It certainly didn't heat as much as we wanted it to. But if you're interested, let me know. But yeah, it's going to come out, and then we'll have to figure out how to fit the new one. Just figured out I better get an older towel. But in case something happens, I'll put that over the front of those, in case it dribbles a bit. It's quite heavy, and it's not a very easy space to work in. Just before we get the old one out of here, you can see the difference in size So yeah, there's a bit of difference. The new one's 10 litres. I'm not sure how big the old one was. But yeah, that'll also help because you don't want to be heating up all sorts of water with 12 volt power. So just a little bit is better. All the threadings are the same, which is great. I am using the older pressure relief valve because it's got this drain off that's already plumbed, so that's much easier. All right, let's get everything going and I'll put the new one in and see how it all fits. The next thing we're going to do is work out where to position the new one. It is smaller, so it should be easy. It's got some brackets there, so I'll put that into the wood and then we'll connect the pipe work and have a look from there. Just check out all the pipes before you drill anything or put anything in place. Make sure it's all fitting where you want to, like that one. That has to move across a bit, so I'm going to have to play with this a bit. Make sure you double check before you screw anything off, as always. Okay, well, stage one is in. The water heater is locked in, the pipes are on, and the 240 volt is done. I've got to go to the shops and get a 50 amp fuse and a few other things before we can finish up, but the water is all back together, so there's no more leaking water. I've got to fill it all up and make sure everything's holding water, of course, but should all be good. Everything's nice and tight. Yeah, so it's looking good. It's pretty hot working under here, as you probably suspect, and for anyone working on boats, it's always a bit of a pain just reaching around everything, but it's in. Let's go have a look at everything else. I'll get the water going. We're underneath, everything is hooked up. I don't know if you can see the water flowing in from the fill tank, so we're filling out the fresh water again, just checking that there's no leakages, which I wouldn't think there would be, but just always good to double check. We've got the power in. Haven't turned that on yet because you definitely don't want to turn it on unless you've got the tank full of water. So yep, we'll just wait a little tick, check that everything's full, prime the pump because we drained the water out before, so the pump is actually dry. If you've ever done that before, you do need to turn the taps on. The lower the tap, the better, and just keep filling the system full of water and pump the air through, and yeah, prime everything. Then we'll get the hot water system filled up. We'll turn it on with 240 volt power, and I'll run the cabling for the 12 volt. That's the next step. We're just about to turn everything on, but we need to make sure that hot water tank, the new hot water tank, is definitely full. So something just to have a look at is I've just primed the whole system. So that's the hot water, and that's the cold water. And when I bled the system through, the hot water threw out some air bubbles, so it definitely is all primed and ready to go. We're just finishing up the last of the water. I've put the shore power on. Sorry, it's a bit warm in here. Put the shore power on, and in a bit we should be ready to check out the hot water system on 240 volt, not 12 volt. That'll be the next step. So everything's set. You can see that 240 volts on, battery charger's charging, and the water's primed. We'll turn it on and nothing happens because that one actually says the digital battery. The digital display only operates on 12 volts. So we'll leave this for a bit and we'll test if we've got some hot water in 20 minutes or so. While the water's heating on the 240 volt, I'm going to start running my 12 volt cable, and remember I'm using Anderson plugs on the end. So I've snipped off the other end and I'm just going to feed them through. I'll flick it round for you. A little bit hard to see, but I'm going up through there. You can see the battery charge. You can see actually skylight. So if you take the bottom of the pantry out, you can get through to there. So let's go have a look from the top. Don't show all the mess to Brooke, but so there's the bottom of the pantry taken out. That's the battery charge over there, so we're just inside. We've been under there the whole time. Here's my cable coming through, so I'll pull that through a bit, and then I'll feed it out that way in to the lazarette, and we should find it there, then we can run it round to the battery. Wouldn't really be a boating DIY on the 895 unless I ended up in the lazarette at some point. So I've pulled this cable through, I'll spin that around, and can see a bit of sunlight up there, so I gently pull. There we go, there's my cable. So I'll run it exactly like the solar. Will go down here and into the bins, across and to the battery. As I've said, I don't have that ready to go today, so that's all we're going for today. As I mentioned, I wasn't going to do that much more today. I pulled the 12 volt cable round to the battery, so that's ready to be terminated when I get to the shops. But we are halfway through the job. Where's the sink? Where's the sink? And just have to test something with the 240 volt power. Hold on. Oh, hot water! Out. It's yeah, that's very hot water. I'm actually going to turn that down, but ooh, I'm pretty happy with that. That's nice hot water. Everything's sealed. There's no leaks anywhere, so it's fantastic. I'm going to get to the shops tomorrow and get everything I need for the 12 volt power to terminate that and to put a 50 amp fuse in. Patch it all up, clean it all up, get it all ready, and hopefully be out on the water by tomorrow afternoon. Woo! So we're getting there. I've just been to the shop and picked up a few more things. Importantly, I've got an inline fuse that'll go to the terminal, and then a terminal block to lock it off to the cable I've already run. I've picked up this twin core cable, so I'm going to run that into the existing rocker switches. So one end of that with this connector connects to the water tank, and this is to relay, so you're not having to put a switch on very thick cable that's carrying a lot of amps. It's got a relay, so you can do it on just that 3 mil. So I've got everything I need. I'm just going to do some bit of soldering and a bit of putting everything together, and then I'll be back down the boat making sure it all fits in. Spent most of the time down here, so I thought I may as well congratulate myself down here. We are running on 12 volt power. Let me just flip the camera around. So you can see that only turns up when there is 12 volt power. So that blue light behind is telling us we're running on 12 volts. And just to show that it really does suck a bit of juice out of the battery, so we won't be wanting to run it all the time. So we've got that there, and I'll just show you how I wired it in to a rocker switch, for the power rocker switch. Turn that off. And I don't know, can you back down to 4? I've got a few lights and things on. And if we go through and check out the hot water system, the lights are all off. Perfect. I think we've got a success. Even though it's the end of winter, it got pretty warm doing that job. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be going out tomorrow for the next couple of nights, so we'll have a bit of a test and see how that hot water goes. Thought we'd just do a quick test with the hot water system. We've been out for 2 days. It's been working really well. It's been off overnight, so it heated up to about 57 degrees yesterday afternoon after we came back from Peel Island. So let's have a look and turn everything on. I'll just switch this over. So it's 6:30 in the morning. Just gonna, so that switches it on. And it's 27 degrees. Alright, so let's wait a little bit and see what we heat up to. It's about 22 amps, and I don't think the fridge is on. So it does pull about 20 something amps. The Garmin's on and a few other things. Probably about 20 amps is what we're pulling. Alright, let's check back soon. Okay, it's just gone 7 o'clock, so that's half an hour of heating. So let's see what we've done. Managed to put the lights on because woken up a bit more. and it's 36. So what does 36 degrees feel like? Okay. Turn it on. So that's actually quite a nice temperature. So good for a shower. So that'll wrap up the test of the hot water system for this morning. We're going to get some coffee and I'm going to go have a shower. If you like that video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on The Rudder.